The son knocked first. The letter with the teeth came after. It arrived in a cream envelope stamped with our HOA crest, a tree that had never cast me a minute of shade. Inside, the denial was surgical. Application rejected. Panels visible from the street. Uniformity compromised. Please resubmit with acceptable alternatives. I stood in my kitchen under a skylight I couldn't dim, the sun laying a square of light on the envelope like a witness who refused to look away. I should have felt small, like I'd been caught shoplifting wattage. That's how these letters are written, to fold you back into compliance. Instead, heat rose through my ribs, same as the August thermals lifting buzzards over Cedar Trace. 2 months of research and late-night quotes. My daughter asleep at the table, me promising a future, less at the mercy of outages and bills that chew. The letter turned all that into a little no Mr. Benton warned me at the June block party. Roof jewelry, he sniffed, toothpick wagging like a gavel. Makes the neighborhood look activist. Mrs. Alvarez, whose fence grows sunflowers like a soft riot, squeezed my arm. They like uniformity because it's easier to count, she said. I laughed then. After the letter, the laughter felt like a receipt from a store that suddenly won't honor returns. I called Raphael, the installer who drew my roof in the air with his hands like a conductor. He didn't sound surprised. Some HOAs try, he said. Texas has your back. Property code 202.010. They can't ban, not outright. They can push for placement, but not gut efficiency. Send me their letter. His voice went practical, which steadied me, like the first click of a roller coaster finding its groove. I read the denial again, looking for the law in the white space, where it wasn't. Visible from the street, uniformity. Words like hedge clippers. No mention of paragraph 202.010. No mention of the son bleeding into Lena's room at 4, making homework wilt. No mention of bills that spiked after the winter storm, or my dad teaching me to measure twice so you only have to cut once. I drafted my appeal and hit send. Night came on humming. The sprinklers hissed. Streetlights pooled on the curb. Lena pressed a warm foot against my shin in sleep, while I scrolled bylaws until the words went soft. I nearly bought a gavel as a joke, and then pictured the fine, the lien, the porch judged, and found wanting. At 1:17 a.m., a plain envelope sighed. Under my door, a highlighted copy of Texas Property Code, paragraph 202.010, and one line. They can't say no. On the back of the page, an arrow pointed toward the statute, and beneath it a name I recognized, June C. I froze. June Caldwell, the HOA secretary with hedges like rulers. If she'd slipped me this, the board wasn't a wall. It was a door, and someone had cracked it. In a neighborhood of rules, a law felt like contraband. I slid the printout under the flour-smeared cookbook in the kitchen, as if the HOA could smell statutes. Coffee? She asked. No hello, no pretense. Her eyes flicked to my purse, where the corner of paragraph 202.010 showed like a pressed leaf. Inside, her house was the kind of neat that feels like a held breath. I'm not the enemy, she said. I typed the denial. I didn't vote on it. You slid me the law. She nodded. Once. They always count on ignorance. Deny, delay, demand you move it where it won't work, and hope you give up. Mr. Benton chairs architectural. He believes consistency is moral. She made the word sound like a disease. I can appeal, I said. Raphael says the board can't force placement that tanks performance. They'll say visible from the street. They'll say glare, property values, safety, birds. Bring facts. Bring someone who wears a polo and says azimuth, like it's prayer. I can bring Raphael. Good. I got you on the agenda for Thursday 7 Clubhouse. You'll get an official notice today. Don't come alone if you can help it. On my way home, I passed Benton watering his grass as if it were bleeding. Here you're trying to install roof jewelry, he called. Trying to cut my bill, I said. Trying to keep my lights on. We all want things. He gestured toward the sky with his nozzle. Aesthetics are not nothing. In the afternoon, Raphael came by with a roll of plans that had the good crinkle of competence. He spread satellite images on my table, tracing sun paths with a pen. Front slope is south-southwest, he said. Back is north-northeast. Move the array to the rear and you lose roughly 35% annual production. That's not reasonable placement. He printed a one-page brief with numbers, arrows, and the magic words. No adverse impact beyond 10%. Lena wandered in, hair frizzed from the trampoline, and stared at the diagram like a treasure map. That's our roof. That's our future, I said, because I wanted to hear it out loud. At dusk, when the sprinklers switched on with their soft artillery, a white envelope appeared in the mailbox. Notice of hearing. It was adorned with polite threats, fines, for unauthorized installation, fees for resubmission, the bland menace of further action. I taped it to the fridge and let Lena draw a sun in the corner. At 8:03 p.m., the lights flickered. A transformer somewhere sighed and gave up. The neighborhood exhaled into darkness. Across the street, a generator hiccuped and roared at Benton's. The sound filled the cul-de-sac like a dare. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A voice, low and hurried. "If you're coming Thursday," it said, "watch who sits behind you." Then the line went dead. The gavel didn't crack. It clicked, like a small trap setting. The clubhouse smelled like lemon cleaner and old carpet. Folding chairs clutched knees. The board sat behind a laminate table like a row of teeth. Benton centered, June to his left. Eyes on the agenda, not on me. My 3 minutes were a clock I could feel in my throat. I sat with Raphael, our prints rolled like a baton across my lap. The warning from the unknown caller looped in my head. Watch who sits behind you. I glanced back. A man in a denim jacket, clean nails, no name tag, thumbed a phone but didn't scroll. A woman I'd never seen before held a binder with compliance. Stamped on it in stern font. Mrs. Alvarez gave me a son of a smile. "Owner forum," Benton announced. "Please state your name and lot number." I stood. "Maya Calder, 18-seater Trace." My voice wavered, then found the wall and leaned on it. "I applied for rooftop solar with a licensed installer. You denied because the panels would be visible from the street. Texas Property Code 202.010 says HOAs can't prohibit solar installations. You may regulate for safety or make reasonable placement requests, but not if those requests significantly increase cost or reduce efficiency by more than 10%. I held up Raphael's one-page brief. Moving to the back roof loses 35% production. This is not reasonable. Raphael tapped the diagram. Front slope faces 210 degrees azimuth, tilt 26, TSRF 97%. Rear slope is 62. We're proposing flush mount, black on black, all setbacks within code. No glare hazard, matte glass, microinverters, rapid shutdown to 690.12. This is textbook. Benton laced his fingers. We also regulate aesthetics. The covenants speak to harmony. June's pen tapped once, twice, stopped. Aesthetics don't trump state law, I said, surprising myself with how steady it came out. You can ask for conduit to match roof, skirt to hide edges, contractor insurance, all fine, but you can't gut the system so it's a lawn ornament. Murmurs. Someone cleared their throat like a warning shot. I felt eyes on my back. Denim jacket leaned forward as if to hear or to count my breaths. The board's attorney, when had he arrived, adjusted his cuff. The statute allows reasonable restrictions. Visibility from the street directly impacts property values. Raphael's smile was surgical. Show me the peer-reviewed study. Benton's mouth thinned. We will take your comments under advisement. He looked to June. She slid papers into a neat stack, hands softer than her hedges. I caught the briefest flick of her eyes, not to me, but to the denim man behind me. My skin prickled. They went into executive session, and we were left with lemon cleaner, the hum of vending machines, and Mrs. Alvarez whispering prayers to the gods of common sense. Lena's sunflower sticker on the notice of hearing peeked from my purse like a tiny witness. I sat so still my heartbeat felt like movement. When the board returned, Benton's smile was the kind that says the verdict was written before the trial. We appreciate the homeowner's passion. At this time, the Architectural Committee conditionally denies the application as submitted. The panels may be approved if placed on the rear roof plane and screened from street view. He said it, like mercy. That reduces production by over 10%, I said. That violates state law. You may resubmit, he said, already moving on to someone's fence stain. The gavel clicked. Trap sprung. Outside, the evening had taken on that thin, metallic light just before the insects decide to orchestra. Raphael put a hand on my shoulder. We fight, he said. We've fought worse. At my car, I reached for my keys and found, tucked into the side of my tote, an unmarked envelope the size of a postcard. Inside was a black USB and a single line on a torn scrap. Sunlight belongs. Everywhere. I looked back. Denim jacket was already gone. The USB didn't click into my laptop so much as it slid a blade under the night. I pulled out the old Dell I kept for tax season and catastrophes. Wi-Fi off, camera taped, Lena asleep. Raphael's brief waited under a coffee mug. I stared at the black stick as if it might refuse me, then pushed. A single folder blinked. Cedar trace, sunroom. Inside, 3 audio files, a PDF called Guidelines Rev Draft, and a photo named Lake House JPG. My breath snagged on that last one, but the audio was the pulse, so I started there. Static. Then Benton's voice, familiar as a neighbor's sprinkler. We cannot set a precedent, he said, every syllable ironed. Front-facing panels invite more. A second voice, the attorney's dry paper. We can require rear placement as a reasonable restriction. If she sues, we argue property values and glare. June, clear as a bell when you finally find it. The statute is explicit. Efficiency loss over 10% puts us in violation. Benton's micro laugh. Most homeowners don't know what TSRF is. We can delay, ask for new drawings. Compliance can keep eyes on her street. Chairs scraped. Someone poured water. Another voice, a man I didn't place, low and oily. And the generator vendors are on edge. Bad optics if we undercut them. They sponsor Fall Fest, remember? My stomach dropped like an elevator. I scrubbed back, listened again, wishing I could misunderstand. I'd never heard anyone say optics more tenderly than values. I opened the second file. She's got an installer, someone said. Raphael demoted to pronoun. We lose. In court, the attorney again. People don't go that far over panels. She'll move it to the rear or drop it. June's voice cut in, quiet and flint. Or she won't. The third file was shorter. A clip of laughter. Then Benton. We vote rear placement. Conditional denial. Motion carries. A gavel's. Small, satisfied click. A trap sprung twice. I leaned back, the kitchen light suddenly too white. The law in my purse glowed like a hot coin. Texas is one-party consent. I knew that much. If this recording came from someone in the room, sunlight wasn't just metaphor. It was admissible. I clicked Lakehouse JP. A wood plank paradise sprawled across a perfect cove. The roof wore a dark, gleaming crown, black on black panels. Flush and proud, facing the water like they were drinking it. Zoom, the dock sign, Benton family. My face went cold, then hot. His house could be an advertisement. Mine was the offense. The guidelines, Rev Draft PDF made my hands sweat. New language in track changes. No installations visible from common areas. Screening devices required. All changes proposed for vote next month. Preemptive retrofits of the rules around my neck. I texted Raphael. "Are you awake?" He called immediately. I told him what I had. He whistled, low. Conflict of interest, selective enforcement, knowing violation of 282 and 010. I know a lawyer. Who eats this for breakfast? Priya. Sending her number. Lena patted in, hair a halo, and pressed her cheek to my arm. Mom, you're making your thinking face. I'm making my fighting face, I said, kissing her forehead. Go back. To bed, Star. When she was gone, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Don't send it by email, the text read. They monitor the neighborhood listserv and bend city ears. Meet with people you trust. Paper leaves a bruise, clouds don't. I typed, who are you? 3 dots, disappeared. 3 dots. Someone who got tired of shadows. I printed the statute, the photo, the transcripts I'd typed out, my printer hiccuping like it was scared too. I thought about June's hedge-straight pen taps and the way her voice trembled. Just once, on that recording. I thought about generators roaring like boarders. Headlights washed across my blinds and lingered, not a pass, but a hover. A car idled, low and steady. I stood still, holding my breath like a fragile thing. A camera flash popped, a white pulse. Against the glass. My phone buzzed again. They know you have it. By sunrise, the shadows had names. I didn't sleep. I sat at the table with the USB under a stoneware bowl like a captured beetle, counting the seconds between the car's idle and silence. When dawn finally laid a clean blade across the counter, I drove to meet Priya. Her office was a narrow box over a strip mall nail salon, the kind of place where good work hides. Priya wore her hair in a knot, like a plan. She listened without interrupting as I played the recordings, watched my hands when I showed her the photo of the lake house, glinting like a promise kept somewhere else. One-party consent, she said, tapping the printout of 202.010. If the recorder was in the room, we're fine. The law is on your side explicitly. We'll send a demand today. Approve the front-facing array with reasonable conditions, or we file for a TRO and injunctive relief. We'll include attorney's fees. We do not email. We serve by hand to each board member and the management company. What about the new guidelines? Even if they pass them, they can't be unreasonable, and you applied under the current regime. Also, selective enforcement is ugly in front of a judge. She flicked the photo of Benton's lake house like a card, in a winning hand. Don't expect them to fold politely. Outside, the sun felt hot in the direct way of truth. I called the city permit office from the parking lot. A clerk with a voice like bubble wrap cleared her throat. We received an anonymous complaint about potential glare, she said, and a note that your HOA denied the application. They denied illegally, I said, keeping my voice in the lane between pleading and steel. We're pursuing relief. My installer can provide a glare analysis. Please do. Pause. Off the record, HOAs call a lot. We have to log it. Raphael sent the analysis in 10 minutes. Priya's demand letter, precise, razor-edged, was ready in 2 hours. We drove it over together. The two of us and a process server named Dina, who wore sneakers and calm-like armor. Benton answered, his door in a golf shirt the color of lawn money. He looked from the server's badge to Priya's folder to my face and smiled like a man whose teeth were paid in cash. Delivering sunshine? He asked. Delivering notice? Priya said, passing him the letter. You have 24 hours. To rescind the denial and approve the array on the front plane with reasonable conditions consistent with 202.010. Otherwise, we'll see you in court for a TRO and fees. You think a judge wants to tell a neighborhood how to look? He said lightly. This is about harmony. This is about law, I said, and about the generator vendors sponsoring your fall fest. His eyes flickered just once. We left him on his porch, reading the letter like a recipe he couldn't alter. On the way home, I stopped at Mrs. Alvarez's. She'd set out iced tea and sticky notes shaped like suns. Neighbors trickled in, some curious, some cautious. I read the statute aloud. Mrs. Alvarez pinned a yellow sun to her sleeve like a badge. "We come to court?" she asked. "If it comes to that," I said. "Yes. Where your sons?" June arrived last, hedges in her voice even here. "They've called an emergency board meeting," she said quietly, "to vote on the revised guidelines and to discuss enforcement measures." "Fines?" I asked. "Or threats of them? Be ready." She looked past me toward the street, as if listening for something only she could hear. "Not everyone on that board sleeps well," she added. "Remember that." At dusk, a city inspector knocked. Young, apologetic, a stop-work tag fluttering in his hand like a nervous bird. "Anonymous complaint," he said. "We're not stopping anything. There's nothing started. But I have to post this until the permit's cleared." I took the tag and taped it inside the front window. A red flag turned into a dare. Priya texted, "Hearing set, Friday 9 a.m., courtroom 3B, TRO request first." I double-checked the locks. The sky went indigo. When I opened the door to bring in the garbage bin, someone was waiting on the porch in a denim jacket, hatless this time, face finally clear in the porch light. "Tomorrow," he said, voice low and steady. "Don't take the aisle seat. And whatever they offer, don't settle. Let the judge say the word." The judge didn't raise the sun. She just made sure no one could shut the blinds. Courtroom 3B smelled like varnish and paper. We sat in the middle row, me between Priya and Raphael, neighbors fanned out in quiet solar system, Mrs. Alvarez with a sun sticker on her cardigan, a couple from the cul-de-sac, June on the far side near the aisle, her minutes book clutched to her chest like a life raft. Denim Jacket took a seat 2 rows behind, not looking at me, but close enough that I felt steadied. In the hallway before, the HOA attorney had approached with a smile that had the precision of a blade. "We're prepared to approve with conditions," he murmured. "Rear placement, color-matched conduit, waiver of fees if you drop your motion and agree to confidentiality." "Front plane," Priya said, "and an agreed order on the record. No gag clauses." He blinked. "That makes this public." "That's the point," I said. Inside, the bailiff called the case. Calder versus Cedar Trace Homeowners Association. My name echoed like a stone dropped in deep water. Priya opened with the statute as if she were lighting a match. Texas property. Code 202.010 prohibits associations from preventing the installation of solar energy devices. While reasonable restrictions are allowed, they cannot significantly increase cost or decrease efficiency by more than 10%. The HOA denied Ms. Calder because the array would be visible from the street and demanded rear placement. Our expert shows a 35% production decrease on the rear plane. That is unlawful. Raphael testified like he was reading a weather map only he could see. South-southwest orientation. Tilt 26 degrees. Rear plane is north-northeast. Loss beyond 30%. Flush mount, black-on-black modules, rapid shutdown, no glare hazard. The HOA's attorney cleared his throat. Aesthetics matter. Harmony matters. Visibility equals lower property values. The judge, a woman with eyes like a level, looked over her glasses. "Show me your authority that visible from the street is a lawful basis when the statute says otherwise." He shuffled paper. "Reasonable restrictions. Not if they reduce efficiency above 10%, she said, tapping the page. "That's not discretionary. It's math." Priya slid the photo of the lake house to the edge of counsel table, but kept her hand on it. "We also have evidence of selective enforcement and bad faith." The judge glanced, then waved it off. "I don't need hypocrisy to rule on a statute." She turned back to the HOA's table. "Do you have any evidence that the rear placement would not reduce efficiency by more than 10%? Silence. Benton's jaw worked, a hinge that suddenly remembered it was metal. June looked down at her hands. "Then here's what we're doing," the judge said, voice even as noon. "Temporary restraining order granted. The association is enjoined from enforcing any restriction that requires rear placement or otherwise. Significantly reduces efficiency. The association will approve the application for the front-facing array with reasonable lawful conditions, conduit color, flush mount, setback compliance, within 72 hours. The city is not to delay. Permitting based on HOA objection. I reserve on fees, but I am inclined to award them if this proceeds." She paused. "And there will be no retaliation, explicit or tacit. This is state law. Follow it." The gavel didn't click like a trap this time. It sounded like a latch lifting. Outside, the inspector from the night before found us on the steps. "We'll clear the flag," he said, relief in his grin. "Send me the order." Neighbors hugged me like I'd held open a gate. Mrs. Alvarez pressed a sun sticker into my palm. "For the meter," she said. Benton swept past with his attorney. His smile filed down to nothing. June stopped, touched my sleeve, and whispered, "I'll make sure the vote reflects the order." Her eyes were wet. "Thank you." Denim jacket lingered under the courthouse oak. Up close, he was younger than I'd guessed. "Name's Eli," he said. "Management company. They make us sit in the room for minutes. I got tired of writing shadows. You knew they'd try to gag it. They always do." He nodded toward the copy of the order in my hands. "Now there's daylight." By Monday, Raphael's crew moved like choreography on my roof. Ladders sang. Panels rose like quiet script written against the sky. Lena sketched the shape of our array in chalk on the driveway and labeled it "Our Future" in blocky letters. When we turned the system on, the inverter hummed, soft and certain. The monitor ticked up. 1 kilowatt, 2, 5, the house filling, with its own light. State law had settled it. Sunlight made it stick. That night, as crickets took over the score, Eli texted a single line. "There are others." And I looked at our lit window and knew the fight had only just begun.